This is what I've been waiting for ages. The Sirui Anamorphic Pelican case. This thing is incredible because it's with the full frame. It can store all current four of the anamorphic lenses. There's one coming, I think it's the 135 there's space for. It's also got that anamorphic 2x adapter as well, which you can actually use on the Super 35 because I've got all four of the Super 35 ones. And now that I've got the FX30, I cannot wait to use that with the anamorphic adapter. I just love these. And today's video with the A7R5 and the Sirui Anamorphic lens is brought to you by Epidemic Sound, the all-in-one audio platform, which is incredible and you need to invest in right now. So Epidemic Sound is my go-to source for all my soundtrack needs, which you'll actually see in this video. All the sounds are created through Epidemic Sound. It's a great tool for an online creator or also for professional creators who don't want to deal with any sort of copyright strikes or worrying about any takedowns. Epidemic Sound has a huge library of music and sound effects, and all these kind of new tracks are added every week. Now, all tracks are professionally produced by a diverse collection of artists and exclusive to Epidemic Sound. The right sound can make a huge difference to your video, and Epidemic Sound has over 90,000 sound effects, which are easy to search for. Now, the personal plan is ideal for content creators, and it covers most platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and podcasts. And the commercial plan is perfect for, obviously, freelancers, businesses, agencies looking to soundtrack their content. With Epidemic Sound, you're able to monetize your videos without to worry about being demonetized, receiving any strikes, or being flagged in unlicensed usage. So make sure you click the link in the description below to get yourself a 30-day free trial. And yeah, thank you for Epidemic Sound for bringing the A7R5 and the Sirui video to you guys. So let's get into this video. We got a lot of hot topics to get into. Now, anamorphics is pretty much all about character, and that's probably why, you know, a lot of people tend to buy the anamorphic lenses, because it's just got that different look. And if you are a cinematographer, you'll definitely know that it does come down to character sometimes. Obviously, when it comes to like commercial work and corporate work, you want nice, clean, really good looking footage, and stills lenses will do that. I'm shooting on the G Master lenses. I generally shoot on G Masters with a lot of my corporate stuff. But these ones for narrative work, for some really cool spec ads or even some cool commercials, I use the anamorphic lenses. I absolutely love them. Sure, you do have to control the blue flares. These ones are pretty good when it comes to the blue flares. The Super 35 ones are the ones that, you know, do tend to overuse the blue flares. But these ones, you've probably seen this, or you've definitely seen this on my channel. If you're you know, been in my channel for quite some time, you've definitely seen them. I've got the 35, I've got the 100, I've got the 50, which I started with, and now the 75, which is what we're going to be talking about today, because I use this with the A7R5. Now, when it comes to these anamorphic lenses, there are a couple of things that you do need to know, and that will actually help you in your filmmaking journey, but we'll talk about that more so near the end. So obviously stay tuned for that one, but we'll also talk about the new case as well, which is incredible and amazing for these things. So the A7R5 just come out, and I did decide to do a car shoot with my friend, and he's got this, you know, wicked Lancer, and it's all tuned up and all that kind of thing. If you're really into cars, you'll probably like this one. But the A7R5 does shoot 8K and obviously 4K 60 frames, but doesn't do 4K 120, but that's perfectly fine. I tend to shoot in generally 4K 25 or 4K 50, which is, you know, suits my workflow. Sometimes I do throw it into S&Q mode, especially on the A7 IV, and just put it into 1080p to get that 100 frames per second. It's still perfectly fine. But hey, if you are a video shooter, definitely recommend A7S III, FX3, or FX6 are the ones to go for. But thought I'd test this in a video shoot. Obviously the A7R5 is a photography based camera, but hey, why not? It's got 8K. Let's shoot a little bit in 8K and see what it looks like. But this is a bit of footage that we got out of this lens. the 75mm one is pretty much built just like the others, the 35, the 50, the 100, and yeah, they all have the same distance of the aperture ring, the same distance of the focus ring in comparison to where the mount is. So if you do actually have a follow focus system, you don't actually have to move that out of the way. You can pretty much swap and change lenses nice and quick, which is obviously a really good feature when it comes to cinematographers and video work specifically. Now, the full frame range does have that T-stop, whereas the APS-C or Super 35 range has the f-stop. So the f-stop is not the light that's pretty much hitting the sensor, it's the, I suppose, projected light. Whereas the T-stop is the exact light that goes into the sensor. So these are T2.9. So if you do swap it out for the 50, 35, or the 100, you're going to get the exact same light transmission through that. But why would you get a 35, or why would you get the 75, or why would you get the 50, why would you get the 100? You know, all these different focal lengths is probably, it really comes down to storytelling. So it really depends on what you actually need to utilize this for. I love the 35mm one because it is so wide. The 35 isn't like a normal spherical full frame 35. It gives you like a field of view of like a 24-ish or something, a 20mm. It gives you a really wide field of view, but the compression of a 35mm lens, which I absolutely love because it's amazing for establishing shots, amazing for creative shots. And I did use it with Geordie, a professional NRL player, in the last video with that one, and it looked incredible. I've obviously paired it with the 100mm, but I do feel like the 100mm was a little bit too tight at some points, and I did feel like I wanted a 75. Look, if I had to choose the two, I'd go a 35 and a 75 because it's just those two focal lengths that I would generally use, and I'd probably go the 135 as well. So you kind of have different focal lengths at different gaps, whereas, you know, if you're picking up the 35, the 50, the 75, the 100, it does give you more options, but they're not too different between the focal lengths there. So let's jump into the image performance of the 75mm and see if it's anything like the 35 and the 100, and obviously the 50mm as well. So this is the 75mm mounted on the A7 IV, looking at this chart, and this is obviously a video recording as well. So wide open at T2.9, it is actually really sharp. Like, this is probably one of the sharpest anamorphic lenses you could probably get. And it's obviously a lot different to most anamorphic lenses, but overall, in terms of sharpness, you can shoot wide open, absolutely no worries. Now, when it comes to distortion, it does seem to be a little bit of distortion out to the edges with a little bit of pin cushioning. It's not as dramatic as the 35mm, but it is noticeable here if you are shooting some nice, straight, tall subjects. But, you know, overall, it really depends on what kind of narrative work you're actually doing. Is this actually going to be distracting for your audience, or, you know, is this going to help suit your narrative? Now, one of the key differences between these lenses and, you know, traditional anamorphic lenses is the sharpness. Now, anamorphic lenses generally aren't that sharp, and some, you know, cinema lenses actually aren't that sharp. If you shoot them wide open, they tend to be actually quite soft, but a lot of cinematographers will actually film at, you know, f4.5 or 5.6 and higher, because you do actually want to show the background a lot more, and set design is absolutely on point when it comes to feature length films. Any film, set design is like one of the most important things, because if you have a crappy plain wall and you try to shoot an actor against a plain wall, that's a no-no. That's like a film 101. Do not shoot an actor against a plain wall unless it is for storytelling, unless you're trying to say they're basic. But set design is everything, and shooting at higher apertures is actually quite common. And for this to be really sharp at T2.9 is quite useful for people who do actually want to have a little bit of depth of field, a bit of blur in that background. But, you know, you can still tone it down to f4, f5.6, and it'll still be absolutely tack sharp. But you do have that option to shoot wide open and it'd be nice and sharp. Now you can see obviously the 75mm has a very similar width to the 50mm, but the height of a 75mm, but that extra compression seems to give it some pretty decent amount of bokeh. So when it comes to the anamorphic blue flares, this is exactly what it looks like when there is a direct light source going directly into the lens. Now I am putting this off the side as well, so you can see what it's like coming off the side, but it's really subjective. It really is up to the individual, up to the cinematographer of what they actually prefer when it comes to blue lens flares. Now, you may or may not know this, but anamorphic lenses don't generally focus quite close. Now, these focusing distance, I think, is 0.85 for the 75mm, and it's very similar throughout all these anamorphic lenses, and you're going to need to invest in diopters. Or technically, these are actually called close-up filters. You can pretty much see they're literally just like magnifying glasses for your anamorphic lenses. So this allows you to get up really nice and close if you want to do some macro shots. Diopters are actually really good for any other lens as well. It really does allow you to get super close, but obviously if you pull back, you're going to have to take this off. So this is only used for certain shots. Now, I do recommend, if you want to use these diopters, just have a look at the squeeze factor and do some testing in your studio so you can see if the squeeze factor does change when you focus nice and close. But let's have a look at this new case anyway. So this thing is one of my favorites. I absolutely love the anamorphic case. It literally fits all the anamorphic lenses in there perfectly, and this is an absolute game changer because when you're actually going from your studio to the shoot, and you don't want to be putting this in your backpack, but this is obviously really good for traveling because it's just much more protective. It's got all your 4 current anamorphic lenses. You've got the 135 that's coming. You can actually put some diopters in there as well, and you do have that 1.25 anamorphic adapter, which turns it into a 2x squeeze, which this is a must. You should definitely get this from Sirui. And obviously it's going to keep all your lenses in perfect condition when you're actually traveling. So anyway, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on the Sirui anamorphic lenses. The 75mm obviously gives a thumbs up from me because I love the 35, I love the 50, love the 75, love the 100. Can't wait to get my hands on the 135 as well. But this whole kit is just, it's such a really good budget anamorphic kit. I cannot explain how amazing these are, especially for narrative work, especially just for that character, something different instead of extremely sharp spherical lenses. It's just an option. It is an option, and it is subjective at the end of the day. It really depends on if it suits your narrative, if it suits your style of work, but I love it. I really love it. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.